Hi, what is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Yet another episode of Crushing Fantasy Football. Welcome into my Sunday morning live stream. So I was thinking, I gotta get used to doing this again. I gotta start doing my live streams every Sunday morning. Because I'm going to be doing that during the season. So I figured I might as well kind of start doing my live streams leading up to the season and start getting in the habit of doing my live stream every single Sunday morning, because we're going to be doing that during the year. And then, for those of you who are on my Patreon, we're going to have a continued chat that goes on all throughout, the Sunday, slate of games. So it's going to be a fun season. Anyway, guys, today I'm going to be talking about players that I absolutely love this season. These are guys that are steals based on ADP. And I got a pretty big list here of players that I'm going to be talking about that I just absolutely love their ADP value. And I think they're going to be league winners this season. So I'm going to start right here with the first player on my list, and that's Nico Collins. Now, I've been talking about Nico Collins a lot this offseason, and there's a reason why. I mean, this guy, where he's going in the draft, he has the opportunity to smash his ADP, right? Like, you obviously can't say that with, players like Ja'Marr Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, because, they're going off the board so early that them exceeding their ADP is almost impossible. Nico Collins, I think, is the first player we have off the board that could just absolutely crush his ADP. He's going on the back end of round one, and we're looking at a guy who was the lead receiver in the NFL, he had the most fantasy points of any wide receiver in the NFL before going down with his injury last season. And the talk was already starting to happen. Oh, Nico's the best receiver in the league, everything like that. Everybody was talking that big kind of game. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but this dude is one of the more talented wide receivers in the game. Obviously, 6'4", runs a 4.540. The dude is an absolute physical specimen, absolute monster. Doesn't really have any competition for target share. I don't think any of the wide receiver depth that the Texans added in the draft is going to cut into Nico's target share at all. If anything, it's going to help the overall efficiency of the offense. I see a massive bounce back season for CJ Stroud. And if that happens, Nico Collins is going to go nuclear, because what we have to keep in mind is this. CJ Stroud's obviously coming off a terrible year, right? But guess what? Nico Collins was still really good. It's actually pretty hard for a wide receiver to be elite and his quarterback not even really be decent from a fantasy perspective. So if there's any positive regression for CJ Stroud, which I think there will be, I think he's going to be closer to what he was his first year in the league. Nico Collins is going to go absolutely nuts, because he was good when CJ Stroud wasn't even putting up good fantasy numbers. Imagine the upside if this offense bounces back. Nico is going to the moon, and this dude's going to be unstoppable this season. So he's one of the players I love most in fantasy. And yeah, number 2 on my list is going to be Christian McCaffrey. Now, obviously, pretty serious injury risk. A lot of people are avoiding Christian McCaffrey, but I am a best ball biased fantasy football player. I play in more best ball leagues than I do any other league combined. So, I'm always shooting for the moon. I'm always thinking about upside. I'm always going for those players that have the highest ceiling. And Christian McCaffrey is definitely that, right? I mean, we've got a guy in Christian McCaffrey who could touch the ball darn near 30 times a game. This is a guy who's playing and was projected to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. He's going to have a goal line role. He's going to have days where he sees 10 targets out of the backfield. I mean, this is one of Brock Purdy's favorite targets. I love the upside for Christian McCaffrey. I think that, he's going to be utilized at all levels of the field like he always is. He's going to be catching underneath routes. He's going to be running routes downfield. He's going to be used as a full-on wide receiver. This dude doesn't just play one position. Christian McCaffrey is a running back and a wide receiver. He's the ultimate hybrid player, and he's going to have an outside shot to lead the NFL in touchdowns if he stays healthy. This is a guy that I absolutely love this season. And yes, there's some injury risk. You're getting Christian McCaffrey at that discount already. The injury risk is baked into his ADP, because let's be honest, if there wasn't such high injury risk for Christian McCaffrey, he'd be going as the first player off the board because he has the highest ceiling in fantasy. But injury risk is baked in. I'm totally fine with it. We could be taking a player with the 13th or 14th overall pick that blows every other position out of the water. So I'm going to be taking Christian McCaffrey. Forget the risk. I'm not scared. I'm going to take him, and I'm going to win leagues with him. Garrett Wilson is another player I love in fantasy this year. Now, Guys, these aren't rankings. I don't know why I'm putting numbers on them, but, I just kind of am, obviously. But these are just players that I love in fantasy. Jay Money in the house. What's up, man? How you doing? It's good to be on, man. Like I was saying when I first pulled up in here, I was like, I really got to get the Sunday morning live streams going because this is one of my main things that I do during the season. I live stream every Sunday morning before games, giving people fantasy advice. So I figure might as well get these Sunday streams going. I'm going to stop putting numbers next to these guys because it's kind of making it look like rankings. But anyway, Garrett Wilson is another player that I absolutely love. Garrett Wilson is a guy who we know how good Justin Fields is. Justin Fields is with a legit wide receiver one. I mean, we saw it in the years with DJ Moore, did very well. Obviously, he is going to dominate mostly with his rushing upside. He has the size, speed, and running ability to carry the ball a lot in goal-to-go situations, a lot within the 10 and 5-yard line. This dude is going to be getting rushing touchdowns with his legs. He's going to be busting out 50-yard runs every other week. This dude is an elite rushing upside quarterback, and he's kind of got the toughness of Jalen Hurts, the size of Jalen Hurts, and the escapability of Lamar Jackson. This dude is the ultimate rushing quarterback. There's a reason why he's drafted so highly in fantasy drafts every year, even though he hasn't technically proven himself as an NFL quarterback yet. If he can become a true NFL quarterback, and I think Garrett Wilson can help him become that, the sky is the limit for Justin Fields. I think that Garrett Wilson is going to feed off of Justin Fields and be one of the better wide receivers in the league this year. He's been a 1,000 receiving yard season. He's had a 1,000 receiving yard season, extremely consistently over the past few years. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be way better with Justin Fields. I think that we have an outside shot of Garrett Wilson having a 1,500 receiving yard season. So, yeah, Garrett Wilson to the moon. Next player on my list is going to be Jerry Jeudy. Now, if you look at Jerry Jeudy, this is a guy who I was saying throughout most of the offseason so far is the biggest steal in fantasy. There's some other guys that are, kind of in that category as well. But if you look at Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be getting all the targets for his team. There's really no – my gosh. When did I get my start getting people in the chat? My stream just decides to cut out. Unfreaking believable. Anyways, we're talking about Jerry Jeudy. This is a guy who he's going to be getting all the targets in his offense. Obviously, the only other real pass-catching threat is David Njoku. I wouldn't worry about Cedric Tillman. He's not going to eat into Jerry Jeudy's target share. Jerry is so underrated. People tend to judge him based on his time in Denver. And that's what I'm saying. When he was in Denver, the system just didn't really work out for him. Number one, he had a ton of injuries, right? And there were times where that system was just absolute trash. And Jerry Jeudy, my gosh, this is a guy who is a first-round NFL prospect. I mean, there was a time where people thought that Jerry Jeudy was going to go ahead of CeeDee Lamb in fantasy drafts. I don't think that people remember that dude was a prospect coming out of college. He's probably arguably the best route runner in the entire NFL, and he's got the speed and athleticism to get open, gain separation downfield, make big plays. We have a gunslinging quarterback coming in Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is the white Jameis Winston. He might or might not win you games, but he is going to sling the ball down the field and create big plays for his fantasy wide receivers. And there's no doubt that this is going to happen. Jerry Jeudy has the big play ability with Joe Flacco slinging him the rock. Jerry Jeudy is going to get close to 10 targets a game. The only question with Jerry Jeudy is the touchdown upside. Is the touchdown upside there being in the Browns offense? That might be lacking a little bit, but that is more than baked into the Jerry Jeudy value. I mean, this dude going in rounds 6, round 7 is absolutely insane. This dude is one of the biggest steals in the draft, and he's a talented player with all the opportunity share in the world. I'm going to be taking Jerry Jeudy aggressively this season. Calvin Ridley is going to be my next player now. Calvin Ridley is a guy who, if you look at last season and you look at the underlying usage, you look at the metrics, right? This dude led the league in air yards last season. His air yard percentage was absolutely insane. He had an insanely good target share. They just weren't converting, right? I mean, the offense was a mess. The system was a mess. The team just wasn't good. But now you get a massive upgrade at the quarterback position. And guys, this is one of the most important notes you can take from fantasy football. When new quarterbacks come into the league and people don't trust them yet, that is when you get your best value on wide receivers and quarterbacks, because people are afraid of the fact that the quarterback hasn't taken any snaps in the NFL yet. People are afraid that the wide receiver has a quarterback that hasn't taken any NFL snaps yet. But if you have confidence to believe that, hey, I think Cam Ward's going to be a good or even just an average NFL quarterback, you're at that point going to be getting an incredible value on his wide receiver one and the quarterback himself. So if you wanted to get as many Calvin Ridley, Cam Ward stacks as possible, I would recommend doing that. I think that it's a very profitable play, and Calvin Ridley is going to go nuts this year. If you look, if you look at the last season that Calvin Ridley led the league in air yards and the last season that Calvin Ridley had a top 5 target share, that was the 2020 season. If we remember the 2020 season, Calvin Ridley was the wide receiver 4 in fantasy. He does have the ceiling to be a top 5 overall wide receiver in fantasy, especially if he gets the same usage that he did last year. Last year, he just wasn't converting. Now we have a quarterback upgrade. They're going to convert. Calvin Ridley's going to go off. Yeah, it was kind of like playground football last year with Calvin Ridley, and it's a good sign. I mean, you want to see him running those deep routes, right? But you do want to see him soak up some more short slants and, underneath targets closer to the line of scrimmage. At least mix that in, right? I mean, the dude is a true wideout. He's the definition of a wide receiver. He plays on the outside and everything like that. But I think they're going to target him at all levels of the field this year. I think we have a big season coming. Next player on my list is going to be Dak Prescott. Now, people might be getting sick of me talking about Dak Prescott at this point because I talk about him in like every video. But, I just think that this is one of the biggest steals in fantasy. I mean, this is a guy who was the quarterback 3 just 2 seasons ago. This is a guy who now we have George Pickens added to the offense. Okay, if Dak Prescott can be the quarterback 3 in fantasy with just CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson to throw the ball to, and now you add George Pickens, think about the upside. We have CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson in the same offense. People don't understand how good of a pass-catching tight end Jake Ferguson is. The dude is a game changer. Pickens is an elite talent. He was just in a bad Pittsburgh system. There is a chance that George Pickens is 100,000 times better than any of us even think he is right now. It's kind of like I'm not comparing him, like to Saquon from a talent standpoint. Obviously, they play 2 different positions. But when Saquon went to the Eagles, a lot of people were saying that Saquon is washed. He was never that good to begin with. But the truth is, he was never in the right system, and now everyone claims he's the best running back in the NFL. There's a chance that George Pickens goes through something similar. We know based on the eye test, George Pickens is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. But he's always lacked the target share, and he's always been in a piss-poor system in Pittsburgh. Now we add him to the Cowboys system. The Cowboys aren't the best system in the world, but they're definitely better than the Steelers. There's a chance that George Pickens shows up and is far better of an NFL wide receiver than any of us ever thought that he was. That can very well happen. And now we have CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, and Jake Ferguson in this offense. Dak is going to go absolutely nuclear with this wide receiving core, and he's going off as the quarterback 14 in drafts right now. There is no way in hell that if all his weapons stay healthy, he isn't a top 5 quarterback. Next player on my list is going to be Patrick Mahomes. Appreciate you, Vic Z. When I was coming up with this list, I was pretty much putting the players that I like the absolute most in fantasy. Will Levis is mad about not having the starting job. I see his frustration in an interview. Well, I mean, Will Levis, he didn't get it done, right? Dak Precious is the steal of the draft. Yeah, I agree. Dak gets another boost from a running back game that's below. And that's the other thing is, this is not going to be a run-heavy team. There is one way and one way only that the Dallas Cowboys offense is going to operate, and it's going to be through the air. Carlos Goat, my guys, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Kenneth Walker, Omarion Hampton, Jalen Waddle, Ted McMillan, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley. I do like most of those guys on that list. I'm not a Drake London fan this season. And I'm not too big on Waddle, but everybody else on this list I like. Obviously, just my opinion. But Devontae Adams, red zone target hog, and a great hyper-concentrated offense. Kenneth Walker, elite big playability, one of the fastest running backs in the NFL, and an offense that's going to exceed expectations. Omarion Hampton, we know what kind of prospect he was coming in. Ted McMillan, same thing, great prospect, playing in a Carolina offense that's going nowhere but up. And Tony Pollard has had 3 straight 1,000 rushing yard seasons, and people just continue to sleep on him. And if the Titans' offense is better than people expect, which I think they will be, Tony Pollard is probably going to go nuts. And Calvin Ridley, I already talked about him. Everybody knows how much I like Calvin Ridley. And that's a good point, Jay Money. I mean, Drake London did absolutely go nuts with Michael Penix. Very small sample size, but still. Anyways, moving on to Pat Mahomes. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to break fantasy football this year. I mean, like, we know what kind of upside this guy has, right? He's passed for over 5,000 yards in 2 of his seasons in the NFL already. Most quarterbacks can never get anything close to that in their entire career. In fact, most seasons, the quarterback that leads the league in passing yards is in the high 4,000s, 46, 4,700 or something like that, right? So, for him to have passed for over 5,000 yards twice in his career is incredibly impressive. We know what kind of arm talent this guy has. He's still the most talented quarterback in the NFL by a long shot. I don't care what anybody says. And what we're looking at is a Chiefs offense that's going to inevitably have to play, and they're going to have to cut the ball loose. They're going to have to play way different this year. They can't play that ball control offense. They can't play that let's run the clock out and play defense style offense like they were doing last year because, well, they just have too many weapons, right? We have a year 2 Xavier Worthy, who's maybe the fastest player in the NFL now that Tyreek's a little older. We have, Rashee Rice coming back. We have what's left of Travis Kelce, and we even have Hollywood Brown. People are forgetting about that. Hollywood Brown was hurt for almost the entire season last year. Rashee Rice was out from the very beginning. They lost all their passing weapons right out of the gate. And the minute they did that, Andy Reid decided, hey, you know what? We're going to play defense, we're going to run the ball, and we're going to play ball control. They held themselves back on purpose because they didn't have enough explosive weapons. Now the explosive weapons are back. Patrick Mahomes is going to go freaking nuclear. They're going to cut him loose at the quarterback position, and this dude has the outside shot to pass for 5,000 yards for a 3rd season in his NFL career. And if you're doubting Pat Mahomes, look at this. He's had 2 kind of down seasons in a row, right? But over the past 5 years, guess who is the tops in the league in passing yards at the quarterback position? It's Patrick Mahomes. He leads the league in quarterback passing yardage over the last 5 years, despite having 2 slow seasons. It just goes to show you what kind of ridiculous upside he has as a quarterback. And this dude's going to go nuclear this year. Mahomes is so cheap. I agree. Yeah, I think that the Chiefs offense in general is just very cheap. I think that we're just really going to see an explosion for the Chiefs this year. And I think that if you look at a lot of the best ball teams that win major championships at the end of the season, a lot of them are going to be loaded with Chiefs players. We're going to see a lot of Patrick Mahomes winning in Best Ball Mania. We're going to see a lot of Isaiah Pacheco, Rashee Rice, these guys that are going at insane values in an offense that's going to bounce back just because they're coming off a little bit of a slow season. But this is always when you get your best values in fantasy, right? You're going to get your best values in fantasy on players that are coming off bust seasons, but you have reason to believe that they're going to be very good because people will let recency bias determine ADP. So, okay, they had a bad season last year, so what, right? We know the larger sample. We know what kind of upside this offense has. And just real quick, guys, a side note, if you want to get in the league with us this year and join the Patreon, I'm going to go ahead and post the link to it right here in the live chat. We are forming a 10-man league this year. Here's the link to the Patreon. All you got to do is join the Patreon, get in the league, and it's a 10-man league. It's a $100 buy-in, and it's $800 for first. So if you think that I'm an idiot and you can take my money in fantasy, go ahead and hop into Patreon League, take my money, and, have some fun with us this season. It's going to be a blast. $800 for first, $200 for second. It's going to be a fun season. You can also get my top 64 rankings on there. So there's the chat. There's the link to join the Patreon if you're interested in joining the league with us. Next player on my list is going to be Rashee Rice. Now, obviously, I was just talking about Chiefs offensive players, and I'm about to go on a tangent of talking about Chiefs offensive players because, well, they're the best values in the draft. Rashee Rice, I will say this, he's creeping up draft boards quite a bit. I've been grabbing him like crazy all offseason, and if you were doing best ball drafts earlier in the offseason, you probably remember that Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice were going at the exact same place. In fact, there was a time where Xavier Worthy was going slightly above Rashee Rice, but this makes absolutely no sense. Rashee Rice is the wide receiver 1 in the offense. He's obviously going to be eating on those underneath routes, those short, like 7-yard slants, passes around the line of scrimmage. He does have the ability to run very well after the catch. He's also shown the ability to start to catch the deep ball a little bit more. That's what we really wanted to see from Rashee Rice to make him an elite fantasy wide receiver, is we wanted him to show some dominance in the deep ball passing game. He was starting to do that before he got injured last year. This dude does catch passes at all levels of the field, which is obviously the number one most important thing when determining if somebody is a true elite stud wide receiver one. They have to be able to catch passes at all levels of the field. Amon-Ra St. Brown does this very well. It doesn't matter where he is. He can eat over the middle, along the sidelines, short routes, deep routes, line of scrimmage, backfield if you want him to, right? Had an underdog draft yesterday at the 105. Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and Rashee Rice were my first 3 picks. I was thrilled. That's Carl's good. That's a very good start. You know, I mean, you start with 3 elite wide receivers. I mean, and obviously wide receivers, Rice does play like St. Brown. They're very similar wide receivers. They run similar routes, similar kind of athleticism. Rashee Rice might be slightly faster, but not by much. They're very, very similar wide receivers. Had an underdog draft yesterday at 105. JJ, AJ Brown, and Rashee Rice. That is absolutely awesome. And the beautiful thing about these underdog drafts, by the way, I'm 132 underdog drafts deep, so we're on our way to 500 this year. We're going to be drafting 500 underdog teams. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, these wide receivers, they get pushed up the boards in fantasy football drafts and underdogs especially. So going receiver out of the gate is not a bad idea at all. You can still get tremendous running back values, and there are values at every other position, every other main position in the draft as you go down draft boards and underdog. But wide receivers after round 5 or round 6 are kind of a ghost town. Next player on my list, while we're talking about the Chiefs, is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. Now, this is a guy who, the reason he's fallen in ADP so much is because he looked absolutely terrible last year when he came back from his injury. The yards per carry efficiency wasn't there. He was playing in a Chiefs offense that really wasn't a high-scoring offense, wasn't providing him touchdown upside, and Kareem Hunt was getting all the goal line opportunities. So if you just look at box scores, which is the biggest mistake you can make in fantasy, by the way, don't just look at box scores and be like, well, this guy had only 5 fantasy points, 6 fantasy points, 7 fantasy points, 3 weeks in a row when he came back from his injury. So what? That's not what matters. You have to look at the underlying usage, the goal line usage, and the yards per carry efficiency, right? All of these things went down for Isaiah Pacheco because of his injury. He was not the same player after coming back. But if you look at it before, the goal line usage was there, before they signed Kareem Hunt. The yards per carry efficiency was there, right? So the underlying usage was good enough for him to be an elite fantasy running back. It's just that the offense changed styles the minute everybody got hurt. They slowed things down, so the touchdown upside wasn't there. And Kareem Hunt started to take the goal line usage because he was the veteran back, and Isaiah Pacheco was still playing injured. Kareem Hunt's going to have nothing to do with this offense this year, guys. I'm telling you right now. Obviously, they added some running back depth in the draft. Doesn't matter. Isaiah Pacheco is going to go nuclear. This is his backfield. You're going to see the yards per carry efficiency shoot back up now that he's healthy, right? And you're going to see the touchdown upside go up significantly because the offense is going to be way better. This dude is, if you look at the running backs that are going in his range, he's by far and away the best option. In fact, I am bold enough to say that he should be going 3 rounds higher than he actually is. That's how big of a steal Isaiah Pacheco is this season. All right, guys, ask away with your fantasy football questions. I've got a few more players on my list here, but ask as many fantasy football questions as you want. I'm going to be answering any and all fantasy football questions that you have. Doesn't have to do with the players that I'm talking about. It could be anybody. We're here to talk fantasy football. And, yeah, let's get it. So another thing is, if you guys wanted a continued group chat, I have officially opened the group chat on my Patreon. So if you wanted to go over to the Patreon, join, become a member, I pretty much have a 24/7 group chat going on in there in the Patreon. So you can go in there and, while you're not always going to have access to me and my takes, I obviously can't be doing this 24/7. I have a life. I have other things I have to do. There is a 24/7 live chat going on in the Patreon, and it's going to be absolutely fire on game days. If you want to go in there, this Sunday and just, talk shit with the boys and, get hyped up every time one of your players does something and bounce ideas off each other, I have a 24/7 live stream, live chat going on in the Patreon. So if you want to join the Patreon, become a part of the community, and better yet, you get a chance to get in the Patreon league with us and make $800 for first place. Next player on my list is going to be George Kittle. Now, George Kittle is a guy who is clearly Brock Purdy's favorite target. I mean, I guess the argument is that, Christian McCaffrey is his favorite target, right? But, as far as the actual pass catchers, running backs, and wide receivers, George Kittle's his favorite target. He has been ever since Brock Purdy's taken over. I think this has been a large part of Brock Purdy's success. I personally think that Brock Purdy is overrated from a pure talent, real-life standpoint because he's always just played in a system with an elite amount of weapons. To me, he's kind of like Jared Goff in the fact that he's so good because he's just got a ton of weapons around him. But George Kittle's going to absolutely eat this year. He's going off the board in round 4. I'm a guy who's going to fade Brock Bowers early. I'm taking some shares of Trey McBride. George Kittle going off as the tight end 3, sometimes the tight end 4, but going off in round 4 is an absolute steal of a pick. This dude's target share is going to be through the roof. He's going to give you games where he gets 8 or 9 targets from the tight end position. He's playing in what's projected to be one of the higher scoring offenses in the NFL. The touchdown upside is there. Look for George Kittle to explode. And if you look at the other players going in his range, it's a little bit tough because there's really good players going off the board in round 4. But tight end can be a very big difference-making position in fantasy if you hit on your pick. George Kittle is that guy. He's one of my favorite tight ends that you could possibly take this season. Next player on my list is going to be DK Metcalf. Now, if you look at DK Metcalf, kind of like George Pickens in the fact that, we don't really know who he is yet because he's been in a system that just doesn't utilize his talents properly, right? We've got a guy here who, I don't know, look, all the physical intangibles of in the world, right? He now goes to a system where he's the clear-cut wide receiver 1. He just doesn't have any competition for targets. Even in his days with Seattle, him and Tyler Lockett were kind of 1A, 1B until Tyler Lockett aged out. But now this is DK Metcalf's offense. It's, an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. I have a bold take on Aaron Rodgers. I do not think he's washed. I think that a lot of players were watching the Jets last season. They saw how bad the system was. They looked at box scores. They looked at their record. And they were like, Aaron Rodgers sucks now. Well, first of all, are you not allowed to have one season where you underperform a little bit, right? That happens to players in their prime too. But it's not really that. The fact of the matter is the Jets system was just really bad. It was made to make Aaron Rodgers look bad. And if you look at the arm talent, if you watch the actual games and you go with the eye test instead of just reading box scores, you'll see that Aaron Rodgers still has plenty of gunslinging arm talent, plenty of ability, right? He's not quite the rusher he used to be, but my God, Aaron Rodgers still has some of the better arm talent in the NFL. This is a massive upgrade at the quarterback position, and Aaron Rodgers will be by far and away the best quarterback that DK Metcalf has ever played with. So I don't know. I like DK Metcalf to break out this season. The touchdown upside might be lacking a little bit, but when you're going to come out and be getting 10, 11 targets a game, and you're the only wide receiver in your offense, and you have Aaron Rodgers throwing you the ball, we know how much Aaron Rodgers loves to hyper-concentrate his wide receiver 1. He does that even when he has a good supporting cast of wide receivers. Now he doesn't have a good supporting cast of wide receivers. He really just has DK Metcalf. So what kind of target share do you think this guy's going to see this season? This dude is going to go absolutely nuclear. He's going to be getting 11 targets, 12 targets some weeks. He'll probably have weeks where he has 13 or 14 targets because what else the hell is this team going to do besides pass the ball to DK Metcalf? The dude's going to freaking explode. I love him. I love getting the DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers stacks. And of all the 12 players that I have on this list, well, these are probably my favorite picks in all of fantasy. So, yeah, I'm probably only going to be going that deep today as far as, overall picks. But yeah, I'll stick around if y'all want to ask some fantasy football questions and just kind of feed the chat. Ask as many questions as you want. If you want a continued 24/7 live chat, go on over to the Patreon, join the Patreon, become a member, and we're going to be having a continued live chat that's basically just 24/7, 365 in the Patreon. You can talk fantasy football any day, any time of the year in a continuous group chat. It's a great way to become a part of the Crushing Fantasy Football community. And at times where I'm not available and you have fantasy football questions, there's going to be a lot of smart people in there in the Patreon group. Just go in there and kind of bounce ideas off each other, and it'll help you kind of figure out, if you have a critical decision in fantasy and I'm not around to answer it, just ask the group chat. There's a lot of really good minds in there. So you'll see the link to the Patreon here in my chat if you want to go join it. Also, you'll be able to join the league and have fun with us this year and potentially win $800 for first place. Welcome in, guys. If you want to scroll to the top, you can see my 12 players that I love most in fantasy this year. These are pretty much like my favorite picks in all of fantasy football. So I've already kind of gone over most of them, but I'm going to be sticking around to answer any and all fantasy football questions. So ask away with your fantasy football questions, and let's blow this chat up. I want as many questions as possible. Let's go. Appreciate you guys coming in. Happy Sunday. And I'm getting in the habit of doing Sunday morning live streams, and I'm going to be doing this as much as possible, right? So like when the season starts, I'm going to be doing a Sunday morning live stream like every week, right? So, I'm going ahead and getting these going, the Sunday morning live streams. Welcome in. If you're new to the stream and you just hopped in, I'm talking about players that I love. I already went over like my 12 favorite players in fantasy, but any fantasy football questions you might have, just go ahead and ask away. Don't be afraid. You can ask as many questions as you want. I'm here for it. Oh, and if you wanted to talk real football as well, we can do that. I mean, if you want to talk about, Super Bowl predictions, Vegas odds, betting lines. I'm also a player that likes to do a fair amount of sports betting. I know that my channel is, I basically just talk about fantasy football all the time. After all, the name of the channel is Crushing Fantasy Football. 98% of the content on here is fantasy football. But if you wanted to talk betting lines, over-unders for, the season, like if you think that A.J. Brown is going to get plus or minus whatever amount of yardage he's getting according to Vegas odds, let me know and I'll give you my take. And so if you want to play some sports bets, I'm here to kind of give y'all advice on that as well. Do you think St. Brown gets less targets like last year? He's going later in drafts. No, not really. I mean, obviously last year, a big problem was his goal line usage, but I think that the touchdown numbers are going to bounce back. I mean, he's in such a good offense that it's going to provide him plenty of touchdown upside. And even if his overall target share in the red zone goes down, this team is in the red zone so often that I think his touchdown numbers are going to regress in a positive direction. And yeah, and it was the first year that J-Mo stayed healthy. And I know that J-Mo is a very exciting player. He's a very exciting prospect coming into the league. Tremendous athleticism. He was one of the bigger steals in fantasy last year because you were getting him in the last round of the draft. But Amon-Ra St. Brown is him. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still going to come out and get 8, 9, maybe 10 targets a game in a very profitable offense, for lack of a better term on that. This offense will make you money. If you just want to bet on the Lions, right? Stack Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Jared Goff on the same team. Just draft all of them, right? While Laporta had less targets, they didn't need him as much. Yeah, but Laporta is still a very good red zone target hog, so I don't mind drafting him as well. I mean, the dude had a lot of touchdowns. Obviously, the yardage numbers were down tremendously because Jameson Williams took away a lot of his, big play opportunities and, targets over the middle of the field. Jameson Williams is known for those crossing routes. Well, he'll run about 10 yards down the field and catch a pass to take it to the house. But I don't know. I'm still not going to be fading Amon-Ra St. Brown in round 1. There's a lot of fantasy content creators that have him outside of their top 12 because of the exact reason that you're talking about. I am not one of those. I'm still going to be drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown quite a bit, and I am not afraid to take him at the end of round 1. Appreciate you guys tuning into the live stream. Ask away with your fantasy football questions. It doesn't have to be about the players that I talked about. Just any fantasy football question you might have, go ahead and ask away, and we're going to be blowing this chat up. And, yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Happy Sunday morning. St. Brown, Nico, best 12 term. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. I mean, especially Nico Collins. I mean, Nico Collins has no competition for targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown probably has like a few more red flags than Nico, but like the upside is just so tremendously high. I'm not going to be fading Amon-Ra St. Brown, but Nico has no red flags. Nico is the best receiver in his offense. Nico is the ultimate physical specimen. He was good last year when his quarterback had a down season. He was the wide receiver 1 in fantasy before he went down with his injury, right? He's one of the most dominant wide receivers against man and zone coverage in the NFL. His win rate versus man coverage last year was top 5. He's pretty much unguardable, and this is a dude who's going to go absolutely nuts. And Nico Collins, mark my words, has a shot to be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. If Nico Collins was the wide receiver 1 overall, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think Amon-Ra has quite that upside. I'm thinking Amon-Ra maybe is more of a top 3 or 4 guy, but Nico Collins could be the wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy football. I mean, hell, he was the wide receiver 1 before he got injured last year. I mean, obviously small sample size, that was early in the season, but he was good when he came back as well. The dude's just going to absolutely crush. It's what he does. Welcome in. Okay, didn't break up too much. I don't know. My stream keeps cutting out for some reason, but any fantasy football questions you might have, go ahead and ask away. St. Brown, Nico, or Brian Thomas, round 1. Then round 1, 2. Then Kamara, Chase Brown, round 3, 4. Best possible start this year. Yeah, I'm one of those players that I like taking 2 receivers out of my first 3 picks. So, obviously this can work out either way. If you draft a wide receiver in round 1 that has the upside to be the wide receiver overall, the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy, and then you get, 2 really good running backs, that's a very viable start as well. Round 2, then Kamara and Chase Brown at running back. Honestly, bro, you can get Kamara later than that in drafts. I know on Underdog his ADP is quite a bit later than that. You can get Kamara with like your 5th or 6th overall pick in Underdog drafts. But yeah, Chase Brown is definitely going in rounds 3, 4. Yeah, that's a great start. Yeah. I'm favoring Amon-Ra St. Brown over Brian Thomas, although I do like both players. I have Brian Thomas as more of a mid-round 2 kind of guy, whereas Nico Collins should be a consensus first-round pick, in my opinion. Round 5, he's going, but I'll take him round 4 to make sure I get him. Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, if you look at Alvin Kamara, like the underlying usage has always been there as a receiver. The dude is going to soak up 8 or 9 freaking targets a game. In fact, like as far as a weekly ceiling is concerned, he's got one of the highest weekly ceilings at the running back position, always has, even now that he's not in his prime anymore, because, you look at the quarterback situation, right? And we have a quarterback coming in that we're very unsure of, and he's probably going to be dumping the ball off to Alvin Kamara like crazy. I mean, like, obviously, we've got Chris Olave, we've got Rashid Shaheed. These are all good things, though, because these guys are going to help the overall efficiency of the offense and make the offense at least maybe, and this is a big maybe a decent NFL offense. And Kamara is still going to get his out of the backfield. He's still going to have weeks where, like you said, he gets 10 or more targets out of the backfield. This dude is one of the ultimate receiving threats at the running back position, and that's a very big reason why he was so good last year and why he won a lot of people a lot of money on Underdog, because, well, the dude was a steal, and I think he can be a steal this year as well. Yeah, and he's more than safe. Like, he's safe and he has upside. He's safe and he has the potential to absolutely annihilate his ADP. So he's safe because of the receiving usage, and for that very same reason, his receiving usage, he has the ability to outperform his ADP significantly. Welcome into the chat, everybody. So good to have you guys in. If y'all want access to a 24/7 live chat, just go up here in the chat and click the link that I posted to my Patreon. If you join the Patreon, you're going to get to be able to play in a league with us this year, right? It's going to be a $100 buy-in, $800 for first 10-man league. Very winnable league. A lot easier than winning a best ball tournament, right? So $100 buy-in for the chance to win $800 if you join the Patreon. And you're going to have access to a 24/7 live chat where like-minded individuals are in there in the chat with you, bouncing ideas off each other, talking fantasy football. So it's definitely going to be fun. If you want access to a 24/7 live chat for the Crushing Fantasy Football community, go ahead and head on over to the Patreon, join, become a member. It's blowing up over there, so it's going to be a fun time. You want safety in rounds 3 or 4? Yeah, I mean, like, I agree with that. Like, I mean, obviously it depends on what kind of league format you're in. For best ball purposes, you're always shooting for ceiling. For your everyday redraft leagues, you're shooting for, definitely eliminating risk in the early rounds, but you want to mix in some ceiling as well. That's why I love Alvin Kamara, though, is because he fits both profiles. His receiving usage makes him very safe for PPR formats, and his receiving usage makes him an elite upside play as well. So he's got a very good floor ceiling combination. Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't liked the video already, go ahead and like. And here's one of the biggest things you can do to help my channel. Subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. If you catch yourself watching my live streams all the time, but for whatever reason you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel massively. Welcome into the chat, everybody. Thanks for coming in. We got my 12 favorite players in fantasy posted at the top of this chat, but I am now opening the Q&A portion of this video, and I'm going to be answering any and all fantasy football questions you have. So blow up the chat, ask as many fantasy football questions as you want, and let's keep this going. So yeah, basically my 12 favorite picks in fantasy this year are Nico Collins, Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco, George Kittle, and DK Metcalf. I love these 12 players, and they're going to be league winners. By the way, guys, I'm going to have my top 200 rankings posted on the Patreon soon. Top 200 rankings on Patreon. This is going to be something that's going to be out within the next 7 to 10 days. I already have my top 64 rankings out, so if you wanted to go over to the Patreon and join to get my top 64 rankings, to get in the Patreon league, and to have access to a 24/7 live chat with the Crushing Fantasy Football community, it's only $5 to join the Patreon, and you're going to get all kinds of perks. I also have what I have so far, my draft guide posted on there. So I'm selling content cheaper than pretty much any other fantasy football content creator. You can get this stuff for a dirt cheap price, and there is league winning advice and a chance to get in a league with us, win $800, and have 24/7 access to our Patreon only live chat. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Keep asking away with your fantasy football questions. I am here to answer all of them, and let's keep this chat going. Deontay Johnson didn't show up to TA. Oh, man, Deontay Johnson, that guy. I've never been a fan of Deontay Johnson. I've never thought that the talent level was like what people thought it was. There was a time where he was on the Steelers that people were trying to tell me that he was an elite player, and he really was only ever good because of getting an elite target share in that Steelers offense. The minute, he left the team, he obviously wasn't good, and he never really had that explosive big play ability. So I'm not that big of a Deontay Johnson fan to begin with, and now he's showing to be a mess. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to be touching Deontay Johnson too much. I did have some shares of him in pre-draft best ball just in case. He went to a team and got a role and was able to give me some usable weeks, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't trust him at all. So yeah, if you want my top 24 rankings, just go back and watch the live stream from yesterday. If you want my top 64 rankings that I already have out, you can join the Patreon and get my rankings. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm probably going to be getting on out of here. It's been good. Thanks for taking part of the live chat. And yeah, I will talk to you guys again soon.